Chapter 9. Grayle. I thought you were on your way to Europe. I questioned Austin, because of that mischievous glance he presented to me. He had a tell. He'd offer a smirk where he twisted his mouth to the right, leaned in and kissed me, which he did, and then disappear into the shower, but this time he did it without asking me to join him. That was his way of giving himself or me time not to push the point of why he'd come and didn't tell me. I'd seldom ask him anything. I'd been happy to see him, and I didn't want to cause an argument, especially since I rarely had him sleeping beside me lately. I'd missed that closeness, and I didn't want to fuck things up by continuing the questioning of what he and Caden were saying when they were in the kitchen, although I could ask Augustine. Once he took over a kitchen, he was always there lurking over the food and making sure everyone was pleased. After 10 minutes, Austin walked from the shower with a sexy smile. Earlier, I'd asked to soap his back and whether he needed help, but for some reason he shook his head no, grabbed a towel and a fresh bar of soap and closed the door, leaving me standing there looking at the door fogging up. I turned and walked away, giving him the privacy which he appeared to want. We hadn't had sex in I didn't know when. Oh, now I remembered. It was in the airport bathroom where I met him before his plane took off for Germany. When he returned from his trip to Germany, he still wasn't interested, but I chalked that up to jet lag and thought nothing of it. However, as a few weeks passed, and he'd shown no interest in having sex, but an insatiable interest in learning the German language, and giving me an unimpressive handjob if I asked, I realized that something was wrong. Austin's complaints, and he had several, were he was tired, and that I didn't understand the nature of his job. I tried to understand, because traveling to take care of my father had me exhausted also. Therefore, I'd compromised and foregone sex and closeness with him, to the use of my fist to relax and relieve the sexual tension that had been brewing between us. Austin dropped the towel and climbed into bed with me waiting, and he leaned over and kissed my forehead. To answer your question, I had a few days, and I thought I'd find out what my boyfriend was doing? Austin declared with a chuckle, propping his pillow behind his head and pulling up the sheet. I hope you'll give me a rain check on sex tonight. Too much wine and pizza. You know how I feel about pizza. It just sits on my stomach and I'm like a slug, and because I have to leave early, Austin said. I thought you were staying, I whined. I didn't know what was wrong with me. Maybe I thought at this point in our lives that we would have some time together. We were both in our 30s, had well-paying jobs, and had enough money to be able to take weeks off to go on a vacation for once. If not Europe, then Mexico, or a road trip across the U.S. I'd like to do that for once. Yet I never complained or expressed my feelings to Austin about my desires, and maybe I should have. Maybe he... The sound of Austin's voice pierced my thoughts. That was a cute guy who offered to help clean up after the party, and insulted me by telling me he intended to take you from me. Who is he? Oh, right. He's a young dude. You know how risky young men are. Weren't we like that once? See a man and think we can have him just like that. I think his name is Caden. He's one of the guys I invited because he was so nice. I think he has one more year of college and plans on starting a business here in Nevermore. I'll probably get his business because there are few lawyers in this town, and most of them handle criminal cases. My best friend Cole. I thought I was your best friend, Austin added, waiting for me to respond, then turning to offer a kiss. We kissed, but it felt dead on both our parts. There was more excitement inside me when I leaned in to brush lips with Caden. You are my best friend, but you're much more than Cole. I sleep with you, not him. I wanted to have a movie night to get to know everyone, and he'd said that Caden loved movies, and since he didn't have anyone to talk to, and I thought you weren't going to be here, and all the men I knew had gotten either married or had partners except him, the natural thing to do was to invite Caden. I wanted to get everyone together, and we two were the only ones who didn't have anyone that night. He didn't have a boyfriend, and I didn't have you here with me. I found myself giving Austin an excuse, but he never offered me any when men and women would call. He'd said they were business associates, and left it at that. "So you'd love the one you're with," he added, after I'd gone through a litany of excuses. Maybe he'd heard my heart beating loudly when I mentioned Caden's name, or saw my cock twitch when I thought about him. No. He wasn't that good. You know me better than that, Austin. I tried hard to be who I said I was. A man who would never cheat, but the way things were going between us, it was hard. "I'm sorry," Austin confessed. Then our lips met with a warm kiss, and he fluffed the pillow, then laid his head back, and before I could say another word, he was asleep. When I woke the next morning, there was a note lying on the pillow next to me. I reached and wiped the sleep from my eyes with the back of my hand. My eyes adjusted without the benefit of my reading glasses. "Grayle, you know I love you, but I have to go. I probably shouldn't have stopped here, but I had to see you and to see if you still loved me, because I love you. I know the kind of man you are, and I will never doubt your loyalty to me again. However, I don't trust that guy with my man. I'm just kidding. Love you. Austin." I'd like to believe that he'd just been kidding, but Austin had appeared serious. Austin knew how to make me feel as if I was loved, and he'd say these things about how much he loved me. He had a way of using the word love as an instrument, and he knew how to pull on my heartstrings. He was always polite, and act as if he cared for me, but not in the ways I'd envisioned. My soul had been empty with him, but he never seemed to fill it. When I came across Caden, it was as if he blew life into me and filled me with promise, but I'd made a commitment to Austin, and no feeling that wasn't proven would cause me to break it. There wasn't anything inside me when I met Caden that would cause me to leave Austin and go with this young man, especially since I was older than he was. The only thing that gave me a response to Caden was that it was sexual in nature, and how could you build a relationship on just that one desire? However, I'd begun to question my commitment to Austin when my desire for Caden moved beyond just sex. Austin always seemed to be traveling at the most important times of my life: the death of my mother, when my father fell sick, and I had to find an assisted living home for him. I'd asked Austin to delay his travels, and he'd always come up with an excuse.